Okay, what I thought we would do, why don't we just get practice? So line up back there, okay? Okay, so having watched some of the videos of the Saturday outdoors classes, we're going to try a new format where when we introduce material, we'll introduce it this way. It's almost like that's the showman, okay? And so there's a line up there, and then we'll shoot the class as you're practicing. When I'm addressing a point, then we'll kind of use this as a kind of a teaching angle, okay? So I'm just going to revalve, so let's just go this way, okay? Now, I had lunch with Robert Frazier, I'd say, and one of the things that kind of came up was, well, since they use the term ShoChikuBai stored, okay? So I'm just going to ask Steve to come out, okay? And, okay, so why don't we get, okay, so, you know, just whatever, it's like boom, okay, okay, and boom. So, the ShoChikuBai bamboo pine. That's boom. All right. Now, then what's on, but that's show the opening. Now, right there, there's an opening. Or if he's coming in this direction, boom, they come back and it's like, uh, you know, I do two at once. We're not going to do multiples with sword, okay? So, um, one person is receiving the attack, the other person attacks, okay? So, and there in just a little bit. So just, okay. Okay, now we got a teaching point, so why don't we move back there? And look a lot like what we're doing is some form of sparring, but it's not. Okay, now a couple of things I want to kind of mention. Now, one of the things that's possible here, see how the leg is forward here? Okay, now you're going to duck under here, yeah, good, and cut. So it's important if we're going to do that pattern. Boom, boom, he's going to come in, boom. Now duck. So, you know, like screaming a little quick, I run to the power of uke. So I read uke a little bit and then add that. See if I go too quick, it jams up. Okay, so I need to redirect before I take up. We're practicing the redirect. Okay, so if he's coming in this stroke, I can step. So that motion is an entering motion off your rear foot, because if I step in too quick, it's like you ream me not, and he cuts the line. Okay, so you basically that's kind of a guideline. We all okay. Right? So this time, what we're going to do is going to keep David out. I'm going to put Anthony in. See that does make a difference, doesn't it? And your so that is the square. Okay, the pine matsu. Keep going. Takes a little practice. All right. Takes a little practice. Inside foot, but we create the collision in the taijutsu. We also create an opening. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Keep going. Okay. All right. Now you're starting to pick it up a little bit. Keep going. See that's a habit. Okay. And so what you're running into is not David, you're running into yourself. You see what I mean? We have a habit which is okay until you look at it. And there's a martial principle. Okay. Now, more human wise, point yourself and I regret as opposed to tackle. Yes. And keep going. Yeah. Okay. Starting to get you're reprogramming, which means you're kind of refining yourself a little bit around it. Yeah, that's it. Good. Well, now what we're going to do, we're going to have David relax. We're going to have Steve, okay? And you attack Steve, okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, good. Now, David, why don't you go back out there with Steve? Okay, so Anthony, why don't you come back here a bit? Yeah, one of the things right here, okay, let's just say here, I have the form, I go underneath it. But one of the things here is it's like boom. See right here, okay, I have the form of it, go underneath it, just drop and cut, all right? But one of the things here, see, there's that tidal wave. Come on in. You're right, yeah. So here, if you're raising, woo, that's EQ. Or you're in August. See that motion right there? Okay. So there's more than just the form. The ShoChikuBai, the triangle, circle, square, the plum, bamboo, pine, circle. Okay. And there's no the triangle is when you see a lot. Now here I have the form, but cut. Okay, but here, it's a little bit like, you know, you're an acupuncturist. Now here I put the needle in the right place, but I don't insert it right. Okay, it's like boom. All right, so right about here, for boom, 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 boom. He raises to come in again. It's like boom, it's going to connect. Okay, so if you're coming in this direction, now here we come. So boom, 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 boom. Oh, now we come over here. Good, come, cut. Good, 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 good. Boom. So you know, they reach principles, but they also form a whole. Okay, with the triangle, this thing. Right here, for example, here's circle, square. Now, I have the form of the square, but cut. Boom. He cuts. Boom. It's the needles in the point, right? Okay. Okay. So, since you know that obviously the ShoChikuBai, the principle could go into communication. All right. The principles that can go into healing, education, whatever. Okay. The triangle kind of pierces. As he's about to say something, I say, Mr. President, check your facts. If he wants to, you know, then he comes over here. Then, you know, okay. So there is that communication at the level of energy. Okay. There are forms we're doing, but you know, there's a sense for relationship wise. We're here, right here. Let me say, yeah. Now here I shifted more to a spear form. Now come on in this way. Okay. So, you know, basically there are martial forms, but we're understanding the connection to partner key to key. Okay, which is, you know, I mean, playing at the martial forms, a lot of times people get better at the forms, but they don't get that connection. Key to key. You see what I'm feeling? Or spirit to spirit, right? Okay, let's do it this way. Why don't you two continue for a little bit? Okay, all right. What you'll find is if you have a habit, it reappears. You know, you can do it, but then you get, you know, that's why it's tricky, because you know the actual form, the martial principles, you want to align with the key to key connection. Right. Now what's interesting is if you're watching, okay, I mean, it's a little bit like because it just happened. These are two high prospects in college, and you're an NBA scout, and you're watching them play, right? And you're saying, huh, they do it right, but sometimes they don't. You see what I mean? But on the other hand, because, you know, basically, you know, collegiate level, you get away with this. But at the NBA level, you don't. You're an NBA scout. So you're seeing what's going on, all right? And you're able to take your notes, and then you give it to your general manager and your coach, and they go, okay, all right? So part of it is now you're getting kind of the key to key connection, but you're going back into old habits. And that's part of training. You know, it's like, okay, I thought I had it, shucks. But that's okay. All right, now you're going to go out. Okay, and then we'll just kind of shuffle in and out right there, because you can learn an awful lot. Like when you're here, you're a scout. You know, way before Stephen Curry, The greatest warrior was this guy named Rick Barry,
Oh yes.
and he was more my generation.
Yes.
You know, when I was playing when I was young, he was, one of the real stars. But what he said was interesting. He says that, I don't look at anything other than the fact whether a player has a feel for the game. Okay. In other words, a feel for the game is the key to key. Because if you have that, with some work, they can play,
Yeah.
right? And so I wouldn't invest anything in anybody who doesn't have that. But on the other hand, you say, okay, now they do this, they do that. And it's going to take a little time, for that feel of the game. And maybe there's a couple of things you need to work on because we get results. It's easier to step in and jam, right? If you're big, you can knock somebody over, but that's something you get away with, at the college level. You don't get away with it at the NBA level. Okay. And so here we're aspiring, to kind of get those habits to match the connection key to key. You see that feeling a little bit right there? Yeah. So you can scout and learn a lot. Okay. Great players, what they do, we're not basketball, but somebody asked, Kevin Durant, what do you do when you're not in your free time? He says, I study. And so I said, well, what do you study? Who do you study? He said, oh, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, players like that. Film. Okay. So you can learn if you have that feel, the key to key, then you're still kind of working on the fine points of positioning and timing. And so kind of that square entry, that's really Matsu no Ken, is the hardest one. Because everybody wants to go like this instead of boom. Okay, all right. Okay, let's kind of go back here. All right. Yeah, yeah. The most important thing in Aikido is really all three of you have it. Just have a sense of key to key with your partner, and that can't help. Sometimes people learn the forms and everything, but they never get that. Okay, now that's the feel of the practice. Very important. And there's also certain things that are having that. I'd rather you had that than technically good form. But if you have that, there are certain things you want to examine at the level of the interaction and the form. And one thing I was saying, for example, is if you step in with this foot, this is the square entry. Okay. Triangle, circle, square, ShoChikuBai. They're interchangeable. The most common entry is a triangular entry. Okay. It's triangle. Okay. That's plum. It's a sharp C. Okay. But you can also enter. Okay. On the circle. Now, what we're showing here is the square entry, which is the hardest. Okay. Okay, you get the triangle, the circle, the square entry is the hardest. But I kind of want you to see that each of those triangle, circle, square, there's an entry pattern. The most common one that he's coming is a triangle. Boom. Now here, this is actually a square right here. It goes low to cut. That comes in here. Now, this position is not so good, but I can slide off into the circle. Now it comes in this way, so the circle's still circling. Come on, come on. Okay. So each of them, there are systems that people kind of made out of Osensei's patterns by Kumitachi. But I think when Osensei talked about the sword, my understanding is he talked about ShoChikuBai. To come in this direction, boom, boom, boom. Now that has it has the you say those three are energy sources that you find in the key to key connection with your partner. Okay. And we're not a sport, but I'm using basketball because the NBA draft just happened. And so the amount of work, not so much the players, casual, not traditional. Okay. He wants to come in under the legs. Okay. That's the key to key connection. That's the most important thing. Okay. But within that, that's what Warrior Great, Rick Barry was saying. I mentioned to Steve. If he watches a player, he says, the first thing I look for, do they have a feel for the game? And if they don't, I don't think, I mean, certain things can be taught, but that can't be taught. Like right here, boom, 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 boom. Huh? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now what you're seeing right there is that, ideally, the actual key to key connection and the shapes and forms within that connection have a certain sort of, in other words, I'm not just relying on the key to key. You have a certain gift, a natural feel for the game, but you keep refining. You keep, well, Medola, since he likes the term, you keep mixing yourself and finer. Key to key connection is infinite, but the process of really refining yourself, understanding of the different terms, is also. So, what are you going to do? David gets to be the scout. Okay. Now you see right there, he's in a pattern because he sort of knows he needs to work on something. Okay, which is common. Okay. Now they're both sort of getting, because what they've done, they reduced the whole thing into like basically two moves. Okay. But if we started to mix it up a little bit, they'd start to repeat the earlier thing. You see that? Yeah, but the first step, now right here, what you're seeing is one, you're seeing that with a certain amount of prompting and coaching, you're starting to fit, you're starting to match, social distancing, right? The key to key connection is there, which it is, and they're working on a smaller piece of things to get, it becomes a drill. Now, if we were to expand that drill, they would start going into their older patterns. You see what I mean? Yeah. Okay, good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have Anthony rest. Okay. Okay. And you come over here. Now, you're the scout. Okay. Yeah. What do you, the thing I was pointing out to David? They both do, the key to key connections, that's the most important thing. Okay. But there are certain fine points you look for. Okay. Now, they're reducing they're reducing the exercise to one or two moves, which is what you do. You turn something into a drill. But right now, David's still doing the step from the inside foot, not the outside foot. Okay, now, all right, and he's remembering right mid-step to do it. Okay, so you can learn a lot if you scout. That's how you kind of watch film. So, okay, I mean, literally. I mean, this is not a basketball game. These are not like guys who are going to make millions of dollars. You're the ones supposed to put a stand for, not. Right. But, you can notice certain things, okay? Okay. Now this time we're going to put Anthony back in, okay? And once you come on out, so you get to be the scout. Okay? Now, the point again is that when you have something to work on, you create a drill.
Yes, I do.
Well, we do, right? In other words, to work on it, you got to say, okay, I'm going to work on this, that, and this, right? But the whole pattern, triangle, circle, square is infinite. And if all of a sudden, you're thrown into a much more spontaneous situation, the lessons might not have come all the way through, right? It's tricky that way. But you see, for example, yeah, there's a tendency to, yeah.
I find that for me, drill is when I've got a habit of movement that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
I'm leaning over, I'm leaning forward. If I have a drill that lets me correct that or check that or notice it, then I stop doing it. It becomes not my habit anymore. Then I have a different habit.
Yeah.
But the drill lets me focus on some aspect that for example, I'm noticing that your footwork was front foot steps across was your first move, and they're tending to do back foot steps across.
Well, you don't always do front foot steps.
No, I'm just saying that when I was practicing with you before, that was the pattern that I saw most frequently.
Okay.
Now, I know you can do it either way.
Yeah.
Just, I'd like to know that I'm not doing it from a habit. I'm doing it either way.
Okay.
So I practice either way intentionally.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's kind of collect over there. Okay. So one of the things we can do, for example, is put this down. Okay. Just put it down for a second. The key to key connection. You can practice a little bit with yourself. Put the hands out. And there's no particular reason, but after a while you kind of feel a tingle, like there's a current or a field. The left and the right are establishing a key-to-key connection. If you move the left or the right, the left picks it up and vice versa. All right. And if you just sort of put this way, you sort of start to get the field, right? So one side, would be uke, the other side being alge. There are other terms for the sword, and the weapons. I don't particularly use them. Okay. Now, if you move one side, the other side picks it up, right? If you move the other side other side picks it up. Okay. Now, if you go this way, you create space. You come on in. As you come on in, things get denser, heavier. Right? And if you come here, they expand. You can get, if you're a certain way, you get diffuse. But here, you this is like, you have a friend and the friend moves halfway across the world. But these days of social media, you can stay right in touch. Right. The old days, it's like you got to wait for a letter or make a costly phone call. You don't have to do that anymore. So time, space, distance may So, but the connection these days can be, okay, okay, yeah. Now you can go this way. The same connection, it's just in a different dimension, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, if we reverse, you get pretty much the same thing, but the polarity is shifted. All right, top, bottom, right, left, which is kind of altered a bit, but the experience is very similar. Now you just sort of relax for a bit. That's the feeling of you and your partner key to key. That's the basis of the ShoChikuBai. Okay. Now you'll find, because it's a martial art and we're doing sword, that certain forms repeat. And if you realize you need to work on something, you work on it, you create a moves, and you specialize in the movements you need to work on. And if you went back into more of a wide range of movements, you'd find that old habit would still come back. You see, so part of it, what you're really working on, you're working on, kind of evolving. The key to key thing is the most important. The other drills, so to speak, are to teach that. But that said, see, the drills themselves also exist. And there's a sense, it's more than doing the drills better. Okay, like the right hand can learn to twitch better. The left is picking all that up. The left can start to go this way, the right picks it up. You see what I mean? Once you establish that connection, right side, left side, key to key, that's the most important thing. If the right hand makes a fist, it changes the field perception of the left. If the right index finger starts to go like this, it changes the field perception of the left, doesn't it? And that's all key to key. Right. And really, if you start talking about it without feel of it, it doesn't mean anything. It's something you read about and try to figure out there through the movements. And so what I'm saying is all three of you have the feel of the key to key. Now, the sense is, I use the basketball term. You get away with something at the high school level, but you might not at the college level. And you get away with something at the collegiate level that you'll never get away with at the professional level. All right. So sometimes, you sort of like to get to the next level. There are those senses at the next pay scale level. Now, you don't gain money for this, unfortunately. Neither do I really these days. But establishing that key to key connection. Well, the most important key to key connection is you with you. So just relax and stand. So you can kind of go like this and realize this whole dimension of energy going on. So just calming down. See, if you're calm, whatever out there is in motion towards you, you pick it up. If I establish this connection, the left hand starts to do something like this, the right listens to it. So one of the things is, as we're establishing this, one of the things to do is you establish stillness. If my mind's noisy, I might not be physically moving, but that's not stillness. If you try to shut your mind out, it gets worse. So just relax, and you're very easy there. And can you feel your feet? Initially, you start to think and look. On the other hand, just for a little bit. Okay, now the right hand is moving. It doesn't know what the left hand is doing. But if it quiets down, it realizes the left is pretty still. If the left is moving, it's kind of difficult to kind of get what the right is doing. But the right is still. Now, if they're both moving, it's hard to keep the connection, isn't it? Now, flow happens when right and left are somewhat in a harmony, right? Right goes up, left may go down, but there's still a connection. Left goes down, they both, or they both. So that's working on the key to keep connection, you with you. Okay? Right and left. In other words, confusion, chaos. Yeah. The left moves, the right's in motion. They're talking. There's some thoughts, if you take the subatomic particle and split it, the two go away from each other at the speed of light. But whatever spin this one has too. And so even though going away from each other at light speed, they're still talking. So the universe that way is very profound. And what happens, we get caught up here and we're, put your hands out. One represents mind, one represents body. And we're right, left, but one moves, the other moves. Or one moves, the other moves. You can change shapes. But where one goes, the other is in communication with it. And you find a lot of the Aikido forms come out of this place. People like things like Tai Chi. If you don't get too comfortable, you have to learn. We went into that place, you with you. In order for your right and your left to communicate, come on in. We're changing the things because I noticed in the Saturday classes, we drift out there and when I demonstrate, so we're demonstration points, we're facing the camera. So come on a little closer, keep your social distance, but yeah. Now, stillness, calm. If you have a stillness palm, it kicks motion up. See, if I'm too busy, I'm tripping over myself, dropping things. So we're not saying it's anything like you can visualize a center column or a point. There's a space of calm. Or still, or not emptiness, but it's empty. Then you can perceive motion one side or side. As you get to a different level of calm, what the right's doing, the left feels, they're in connection. Now, if I'm too noisy, I'm out here trying to do something, but if I can come from that calm, okay, now stop the motion a bit. So you might call this stillness. Another word for it, if you look at it a different way, is emptiness, not me being empty, emptiness. quiet, silence. In order to hear what's out there fully, you have to be somewhat silent. So that's the relationship, you and that silence or calm or stillness. Now, when you get that, for example, here, there's an easy current. Now take one away. There's still energy going through that, but you really realize all of a sudden that something just left. There's flow or everything, but see that feeling of the field, the current, takes the right, left. I take the other hand away. On the other hand, if you're in that deeper stillness, this is still talking to this. In fact, techniques like Kenshinage come out of that, don't they? Okay. So what we're trying to do right here is, especially, during this pandemic, we don't have, we can work very limited. We can do weapons and social distance outside. But one of the things that is very important is that we start to establish a relationship with ourselves. You become the center. Wherever we are in the world of I, your partner is that stillness or silence or emptiness or calm. And that's different than I got to get calm or empty. It's more like I start to kind of just relax and settle to where the calm is, or the emptiness. You may like another word. Okay? So those things start to become experiential. Now, what I kind of get here is everybody has an intuitive feel of the key to key with your partner. Okay, but we're using the triangle, circle, square, the ShoChikuBai. The swords, that's what O-sensei referred to as sword, ShoChikuBai. Okay, and I never heard a quote where O-sensei called it the Kumitachi. But that's Kumitachi is really not all that free because it's patterns, of movement, attack, defense with the sword. Or Kumi Joe, there's many terms, which is okay. You respect somebody else's terminology. Okay. Somebody said once, if you got Christ and Buddha and Muhammad, they'd get along, and their followers would start holy wars. And O-sensei said, he was at home with all forms of spirituality and religion. He said, I'm not teaching religion, even though I'm religious. I'm teaching kind of like a spiritual science. And so we're looking at, for example, I'm just standing here. My attention's scattered. I spend the whole last couple of months trying to get away from our president and just waiting for the Warrior news in basketball season. And then Klay Thompson tears his Achilles. What you can realize is if you're waiting for something, you might not get what you expect. If you're waiting for good news, you might get the opposite. So there's that world out there. But there's this interior, or there's this calm, or there's this, O-sensei like the word empty, or emptiness. I'm empty. Or there's an emptiness, meaning potential. How good are you today? I don't know, feeling kind of empty. That can be a negative, or it can be colossally better than you've ever done. So what I want you to do, this is the basic. 2 hands. The right and the left are key to key. The right side has key, the left side has key. Are they the same key? We don't have to know that. Well, since they said no. Okay. We don't have to, memorize words, okay? But connection. More important what the right is and the left is if there's a connection. Now, do something with one of the hands. The other one, perception of itself, isn't it? All of a sudden, here, a smooth field. Now, wiggling my fingers, I'm getting kind of a disturbance. This is picking up a disturbance. Right. Let me go back to here. And I do something like this. Initially, the connection is broken. Okay. But after a while, if I realize it's possible, this hand is picking up if there's change on the other side, which is useful. Let me go back to here. Simple. Okay. Now, we used to do this a lot when I first started with Robert Fraser Sensei, because, the very first class, very first Aikido class, he says, okay, I'm going to teach you about ki. Everybody there, because you read stuff about Aikido, was there to learn about ki, All I got from karate was when I got punched here, sometimes I'd pick up something like, whoa, all right. And so we had us do this drill. And everybody, within 10 minutes of the first Aikido class, felt this current. Now you could argue whether or not the current is the key, or the current is the key relationship between your right and your left. We don't have to know. Major thing is there's what you call that experience. And initially, when one starts to move, that connection is broken. But after a bit, you begin to realize that the non-movement hand. I'm making a different pattern here. But it's interesting, I'm feeling that to some degree, and the palm is not moving. Reestablish that connection. And all of a sudden I do, And you can get pretty good at playing energy games, which is not a waste of time. People play video games, which is entertainment, but there's a lot of universe is arguably a video game. Okay, it's it involves space, time, and matter. And people like Einstein, they reach levels that other people didn't, in terms of how the universe was. Okay. Now, when this is in motion and the other is in motion, there's a feeling, which I think we like in Aikido, that's uke and nage, isn't it? That's uke and nage. Uke and nage. They may go this way, they may go this way, they may go in different directions, they may come back towards each other. But wherever you're moving, if you're conscious, your right and your left are talking. Okay? Now, one of the things, if we go back into just your whole body, is either your right or your left hand. Okay? Now put the hands down. Hands are cheating. This is easy to do that. I know that, it's just like the hand is doing this. On some level, you're going like that. But if your left hand is kind of in that more conscious state, is picking up somewhat what the right's doing. Okay? Now, if you start to just sort of settle with yourself, the first thing you're going to probably pick up is your breathing. Your system is alive. Arguably, if you stop breathing in this physical universe, your ki stops. Okay. And some things you start to get, like, the right to left, left to right, key to key is a relationship. Now, you may start to feel your feet. You have a relationship with the ground. I'm standing here with my hands in my pocket, which is horrible martial arts. If I'm attacked, I'm going to tense. and my hands are locked. The other thing they tell you is don't do this because if you're attacked, so if your Master Troy would say, if you're gonna instead of crossing your hands, you can move. Someone tries to pin your hands, you know. But I do this all the time because I'm sloppy. Okay. And when we're up here, we're kind of like the two hands moving this way, and it's chaos. But we establish this, all of a sudden the two hands can move in a way where they're communicating. So I would say this has a key, this has key. And once you establish, your baseline, right to left, left to right feel or current, whatever this hand is doing, the other hand kind of knows. There's a feel connection. Okay, now we go back. Our whole body is either of those hands. Doesn't have to be right or left. Now, it has a companion. You can say mind. Where is your mind? My brain is up here. But if you were to ask a psychologist where mind is, I'd be interested in their answer. So you're already getting something that you can't categorize. Most time we say mind is I. But as the body relaxes, and part of that is I'm starting to feel my feet getting ground. I'm noticing, my neck is kind of tight, so I just relax. It aligns with the rest of me. Now, when you say mind, what's the connection? Just like here, maybe the connection is the quiet calm. My mind has an idea, the body follows it. Mind leads. But when we place mind out there, it's kind of like this, and there's no communication. But if you calm down, that field is more like just the calm, or the still, or the empty. And then all of a sudden, that motion, you see, your mind is very difficult to categorize. You know what you're thinking, what you're going to do or not do. But your mind is a potent force. Mind always leads. Body follows the mind. Okay? Well, I'm not talking about what I'm thinking. That's usually I. Okay? So let's stay where you are for a second. Okay, Steve? Let's come out of it. So right about here, it's like boom. Now, if he's thinking about cutting underneath, so the ShoChikuBai, the sword of Aikido, you can use your staff. It's okay. It's something that, is really about, there's a key to key connection with your partner, like right here. Boom, boom. So he wants to cut underneath, and that's key to key. But when he's coming in this direction, boom. And in that interval that he's coming in, it's like there might be a whole bunch of different moves that we can. Okay. So just like when you establish the connection, your right knows what your left is doing. The right is still, it picks up the left is doing something. The second they both get noisy, it's kind of like a couple that's not talking, they're going to have a fight. And if one person is really off balance, the other person better have some balance, or else it's going to go like this. Okay, so yin to yang, yang to yin. But there can be, when the two are in communication, there's a flow, isn't there? So what we're doing today is going through what we call the triangle, circle, square a little bit like that motion. He wants to come in. So he turns a little bit right here. Okay. Yeah. And then, he comes in again. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. He wants to cut underneath. Okay. So you see the key to key connection. And you see the triangle is usually that pointed entry. That's the plum seed. The bamboo is the circle. If he's coming in this direction, a circle nose. Come on in. The square is, the pine, radially symmetrical. Words don't help you. All of those things are relationships that you start to hone with the key to key with your partner. Okay? So, Hikazuchi Sensei, to his credit, he never, ever, ever taught what we call the Kumitachi, which isn't free. It's like you do movement 1, 2, 3, and your partner does movement 1A, 2A, 3A. All Hikazuchi Sensei did was teach the triangle, circle, square. Okay, now later maybe he changed, but when I was training with him, okay, and that went down to Ano Sensei, to Yanasa Sensei, to Tojima Sensei. Okay, so what we're doing is, why don't you two pair up, and you two pair up. Hmm. Notice anything? Because we did the kind of the drills with the hands and everything. Because sometimes people, what's kind of interesting, they realize, as a dojo, everybody has a pretty good sense of key to key, right? Which is the first thing I teach, even though it's not conscious. Okay. Now, where we can step it up is the research, and I'm not talking mental, but emotion, relationship, and cleaning certain things up. You see what I mean? Like, for example, here, if the right hand goes this way, the left hand picks it up. The left hand goes this way, the right hand picks it up. Now, if the right hand is saying the left is going to move this way, then the left is something else, this starts to kind of feel very, very, very left out or frustrated. But when you just open, take one hand away, it changes. But if the right realizes that the game's changed, it feels the left is just in a different position. You see what I mean? Somebody, and you say, what happened? Well, they're just in a different mood today. They're the same person. You say, they undergo too much of a personality change, then you didn't understand them in the first place. You see, what's happened to my daughter? She's a teenager. You see what I mean? What happened to my best friend? He got promoted. I didn't. Something like that, right? It may take you a little bit, but if there's something there, the connection's there, then the harmony is reestablished, right? So it's, you know, the sword play, the ShoChikuBai is about more than just learning the forms. Now, but on the other hand, you know, like that square entry, everybody's starting to realize it. Okay. Now, what happens right there is that, you know, the more you know, the more exacting it is. On the other hand, the more you get caught up in that, the less free you are. So at some point, you know, it's like the speed of light. If you're in the physical universe, if you're approaching, that's infinite. So, you know, kind of in the physical universe, you know, you're never going to break the speed of light. And, you know, if you shine a flashlight out there and you start running, you're not increasing the speed of light at all by running or faster or whatever it is, right? Speed of light is a law. So, you know, in Star Trek, you discover something called hyperspace, you know, where you're moving in a way that is not about breaking light speed at all. You're moving in a different dimension where the speed of light and also space-time are different. It may take you hours to get somewhere, but in hyperspace, you know, with warp drive, you might get there, you know, in a couple hours. And it may take you a couple of lifetimes to get there if it's just your regular impulse power engine, right? So, you know, those are things that you're not supposed to ponder when you're training. But one, everybody has a good feel of the key to key. That's really good. Now there's more work. And what you'll find is you understand it, then the next time you try this, you'll have it returned. All right. Like here, I have an old habit when the right moves, the left feels left out. And right about here, okay, I got to remember again, the left, you got to remember the right is still around. It just moved. The relationship shifted because the right moved, or vice versa. And after a bit more advanced, the right and the left, they're in communication, right? 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 So, after a while, you know, the movement gets free. You know, if you're coming in this direction, then it gets free. You know, right? And you know, all those movements have something of a right to left, left to right communication going. Uke to nage, nage to uke, right? The right has to sort of feel what the left is doing, but the left also has to feel what the right's doing. So that's uke nage in the physical training. Okay. And yeah, we have to learn the techniques and everything. But if all you sort of get is the techniques, you don't get the key to key relationship. All right. That said, if you can get the key to key relationships to be a little sloppy in the movements, so it really is both. You see what I mean? The training is both. All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now, one of the things, for example, if you're coming into stretching, then whatever the movement is, it's key to key right here. Key to key. Now, for example, the relationship's changed, hasn't it? If you try to come in under it, you change it. Try to go over the top of it. That's key to key. That's the most important thing. On the other hand, you know, you come in this direction and I go like this and I freeze and you move. But if you move, the relationship keeps going. Okay, there's a stay-at-home parent and a working parent. All of a sudden, the working parent gets laid off, has to become a stay-at-home parent, and the other stay-at-home parent has to go out and get a job. That's going to be a lot of change. But if there's a really good connection, the relationship will probably survive. One has to feel what the other's feeling, and the other has to feel what that first one is feeling. That's relationship, and there will be change, right? But if there's the key to key, it'll evolve. Then after a while, the former working one will acquire stay-at-home skills, babysitting skills, right? And probably the stay-at-home parent has some talents that weren't being used, and they'll get a chance to go out there and do something maybe that they love. So it's a crazy world right now where everything's in such motion. It's really difficult to get what's going on. You say, very strange. Okay. Anyway, keep going. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to reposition. So why don't we move back there? Why don't we move back there? Again, I watched some of the videos of some of the recent, you know, classes out here. I began to realize that a lot of times what we're doing is interesting, but if I have a point to make, it's better to make it towards the camera. So we're lining up just so we would line up in a dojo. I think, it's a little bit more work and everything like that. But one of the things I also want to mention is that we're not, we could do that. But when you do the ShoChikuBai movement, it really is much more like the movements of a spear, well, even though, it's not a spear. Boom, 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 boom. See, with a spear motion, when you're doing this, the right and the left have to know what each other are doing. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now here, boom, the movements are freer. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? Now, what I'm going to have you do is an exercise. I mean, I know it was an exercise for him, it was a spiritual experience. There's a phantom swordsman. The phantom swordsman is you at a level you haven't reached yet. Boom, boom. So you're going to the kind of shadow fence. Boom, 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 boom. We have to go back. We have to enter. Boom, boom. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do for a little bit, this is you with your next level. It happened to O-sensei during World War II. He was working with a sword by himself, and all of a sudden a phantom image of himself comes in. And it's him at a level he hasn't reached yet. And so he tries to fence with it, gets creamed. Then after a little bit, he starts to hold his own. And then after a little bit, he starts to anticipate what the other him is doing. And then he says, once he did that, the image vanished. That's called the material universe. It's a real bear sometimes. We collide, we drop, we make mistakes, we experience loss. There's good stuff that happens too. And so what happened is when that image disappeared, he said he felt the whole universe in his body. Okay, now I don't think we're going to quite get there, but I want you, it's going to be you with yourself. All right, all of a sudden, boom, 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 okay, boom, 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 boom. I want you to create the next level of you. And the practice is to anticipate what that next level of you is going to do. Okay, so you need some imagination, but you can't make it imaginary out there. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So you're going to fence with yourself. Okay? So get out there. We're going to try that. This is freer. Okay? You with you. Okay? So let's go. Okay. Okay, let me come over here again. Okay. And one of the things, it takes imagination to do that. In a sensei's level, for him to kind of come upon, you know, even himself, is probably pretty hard. He's really good. So just imagining somebody who he felt totally frustrated facing, but he doesn't give up. He opens, and all of a sudden, now he holds his own. Then after a while, it's like he's the one that's anticipating the movements and moving. Okay, and then the opponent disappears. The next level of himself is inside him, and you know his word for that. And probably he meant it in a way that we don't understand yet. The universe was inside him, inside his body, not just a concept. Okay. For example, here, when you are in this particular state, we take it for granted because we work with a partner. A lot of times, the reason what we really miss, you know, with the social distancing is the fact that you get to go to a dojo, bow in, and you start to establish this harmony with somebody. Okay, now, you know, circumstance, poor leadership, you know, poor governmental decisions have taken that away. So one of the things that we can do, you know, I'll just go over it again, just so I think we got a minute or two. Just put that down, just from where you are. It can be anywhere. Okay. Now, see, it takes more than, you know, it takes some imagination to say there's a current there, or there is a magnetism there. There's a field there. I mean, you may have your own word. There's a buzz, whatever. I'm staring at them, and what are those people doing? But it's more than just imagination. It's imagine, feel. Okay? And then what happens, I do something with one side. I begin to realize that the left side picks it up. Now, if the left side panics because the relation, what really it is the right, left, right relationship changes. But the relationship is there, it's just changed. Okay? And then we go the other side, I can, right? See, when I feel the circle going here, my perception in the still hand, it might not be an exact image, but you say, okay, the relationship's changed. Okay? Now, if both are in motion and not communicating, it's chaos. You see that sometimes in Aikido with people. Okay? But go back here and realize now, more advanced, is where when one moves, the other can move, and they're in communication. You move to the other side of the world, but there's social stuff you can do. There's Twitter, there's email, there's text, there's whatever. So after a bit, yeah, you might like to see that person, but you know, you can still be in communication. Right? Now, I just want you to pause. See, if I'm a little too out there trying to figure it out, I get in the way of it. But you know, you can do different patterns. We don't do this stuff too much, but you begin to, you know, one thing you can do is you can play energy games. All right. For Sensei, I think the universe was a computer game. How does it work? This level, who am I at this level? At one time, the universe sent him a different level of himself to fence. He wasn't just imagining it, he was imagining feeling what that level would be. And it, you know, he kicked his butt. Then he started to hold his own. And then he started to be able to anticipate, feel what the other was going to do before it did anything. Okay. Yeah. This hand starts to go this way. This hand can just stay still, but all of a sudden it can say, I'm going to do that. This hand starts to move here. The other hand says, okay. Field gets denser. All right, good. Now we're not going to do it today, but for example, if we had this, the right and the left, during communication, to produce these forms. Now these are more what we call, I'm using the whole thing like more, it's a spear, boom, 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 boom. And now after a while, for example, there's an up, there's a down, but boom, they're in communication, There's a back, there's a forward, boom, they're in communication. Okay, so your own system can start to get more acquainted with that sense. Ki is relationship. Ki by itself is just ki. The harmony, the Ki, presumes there's ki in something else, where there's this ki and there's that ki. So anyway, let's bow out. We're gonna we'll kind of end. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So I hope give you some energy games you can play with yourself, right? In a way that's healthy, not whatever, but if you start to sense how your own system has that, then you'll start to be able to work with another energy system, your partner. And you realize what you're working towards. Okay? Or you're working with another person is not, if you can't harmonize your own right and left, how are you going to teach an uke-nage relationship to anybody? Which is, of course, the technique. It's the waza, is the uke-nage relationship. Most important thing, everybody here has the key to keep. You and partner. Now, we're going to work a little bit at streamlining the mechanics of the relationship. Okay, you stay at home, I go earn the money. Whoops, it changed. Okay, now I'm going to stay at home. You go out there. That's drastic. Our whole relationship with the world shifted due to this pandemic. Thank you. Anyway, let's go. Elle wants me to try to tune in here on my phone for some reason. So I'm going to give you